Hello, everyone, and welcome to Slash Film Daily for Friday, March 27th, 2020. On today's episode, we're going to take a look at Quibi, the first month lineup for this new streaming service. This is Slash Film Editor-in-Chief Peter Sciretta, and joining me on today's podcast is Slash Film Senior Editor Ben Pearson.
Hey, what's going on?
So you have compiled this article on SlashFilm.com listing everything coming to Quibi in April, and it is a lot.
Yes, it is a ton of stuff, and there's actually a whole... So the way Quibi is going to work, for those of you, let's just set the stage here for people who maybe haven't heard of Quibi or something. Really quickly, Quibi is a new streaming service that launches on April 6th, and it is mobile only, so it's only going to be available on your phone, and the entire purpose is short-form content. So Quibi stands for Quick Bites, or is short for Quick Bites. And so each episode is going to be, around 10 minutes or less, basically. That's sort of the gist of it. You can subscribers have the choice of paying $4.99 with ads or $7.99 without ads. So those are the two pricing tiers. One thing we wanted to mention up top is that Quibi is actually offering a 90-day free trial if you sign up before launch day, so before April 6th. So that's what I'm planning on doing. I don't know about you, Peter, but actually you, I think, have been watching a couple screeners for Quibi things, right? Can you talk about that yet or not? Really?
I am not allowed to talk about anything I've seen.
Okay. All right. Well, I haven't seen anything. So I guess the purpose of this episode is just we'll run down some of the biggest and maybe most interesting titles that are going to be available at launch, or maybe in the service's first month, and just sort of describe them and see what we think about them, right?
Yeah, and this is pretty unique because, Apple just launched their Apple TV Plus a few months back, and they had like a handful of programming. This service has so much programming that I don't think we can talk about it on this podcast, like all of the shows and movies. And because they have movies in chapters, unscripted in docs, and daily essentials. Can you tell us what those are? What are the differences between those things?
Yeah, so movies and chapters are basically, what it sounds like. It's bigger stories told in, 7 to 10 minute chunks. They're actually, I was just saying this in our Slack channel, about a year or so ago, I wrote an article that I thought was kind of interesting, and I'd mostly forgotten about it until all of this, Quibi stuff was coming up, close to launch again. But there's something worked into the contracts where people who make movies for Quibi are actually allowed to, license the content to Quibi for a certain amount of, I think it's maybe 2 years or something like that. And then at that point, when that part of their contract is up, they get the rights to the project back themselves. So the people who make the thing actually end up owning the thing, and then they're actually allowed to edit the movie into a more standard feature instead of broken up into chunks like that. And then they're actually allowed to take that out and sell it as a movie elsewhere. So that's kind of an interesting thing that people might, it might inform the way that you view some of the movies and chapters as they come out on Quibi. And then there's unscripted and docs, which is basically just like reality show kind of stuff. There's all sorts of topics that are covered in those shows. And then there's something called Daily Essentials, which is 5 to 6 minute episodes of entertainment recaps, sports recaps, lots of news and stuff like that.
Some more topical, news kind of things. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, we won't be talking about those today, but let's talk about what is launching on day one on Monday, April 6, 2020, which is just over a week away. So if you want to sign up for that free trial, this is not a sponsored advertisement in any way, but you do have a week to get to that 90-day free trial. Let's start first with Most Dangerous Game. This one probably has the highest pedigree of everybody involved?
I would think so, yeah. It's directed by Phil Abraham, who's directed a lot of great television stuff. I think he's directed episodes of Mad Men. I recognize his name from that. It stars Liam Hemsworth and Christoph Waltz. And Most Dangerous Game is a really famous story where this, explorer named Rainsford is basically he is shipwrecked on an island, and he realizes that the man who runs this compound on an island hunts people for sport. And this is sort of an updated version of that, where Liam Hemsworth his character in this movie basically needs money because he has his wife has a terminal illness, or no, he has a terminal illness, so he has to get money to support his family. And Christoph Waltz plays this sort of ruthless businessman kind of guy who decides to roll him into this most dangerous game scenario where he's basically John Wick. Like, everybody is hunting him, and with each hour that he stays alive, he gets X amount of money. So I think he has the potential of winning something like $25 million or something like that if he stays alive for the whole stretch. So it's just this action thriller where Liam Hemsworth is on the run from a bunch of people trying to kill him the whole time.
Now that sounds pretty promising, right?
Yeah, there's a trailer out, and I've embedded all of the trailers that are available for all of this Quibi stuff in the article that we've linked to in the show notes. So you can, if any of this sounds interesting to you, you can, I encourage people to watch these trailers and see, the visual style and see what the look of these things are and see if it sounds like something that you're actually interested in. I was more interested on paper than I was after watching the trailer, I'll put it that way, but I still might tune into this anyway. What do you think, Peter?
Yeah, and this was produced by CBS. So I'm not sure if this was originally going to be a TV show and then it became a Quibi show, or how it worked. Yeah, you're right. The names are better than what I'm seeing from the execution in the trailer. Mm-hmm. The trailer looks very small.
Yeah,
right. It doesn't seem. It seems low budget. So yeah, I don't know. I'm going to give it a chance. I mean, I'll give it my 7 minutes for the pilot episode, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, let's talk about when the streetlights go on. And this is, what is this, actually? I don't even know.
So Rebecca Thomas, who directed an episode of Stranger Things, is the director of this. And the premise is, after the murder of a beautiful young girl rocks a suburban community, the victim's sister and her high school peers must struggle to find a sense of normalcy while coming of age in the midst of the murder investigation. And it stars Chosen Jacobs from the It movies. Mark Duplass is in it. Tony Hale is in it. Queen Latifah is in it. Sophie Thatcher, a bunch of other people. We don't have a trailer for this one, but based on the fact that it's Rebecca Thomas, who's obviously familiar with handling stories about teenagers from her work on Stranger Things, and Chosen Jacobs is great. He played Mike in the It movies. Yeah, it sounds like it could be pretty good. I mean, kind of serious, especially in a time of global pandemic. I don't know how serious people want to be in this era right now, but it sounds like something that's worth checking out for sure.
Yeah, it's weird that they haven't released a trailer for this thus far. I should say that Rebecca Thomas probably directed the worst episode of Stranger Things in the history of the series.
She directed, was it season 2?
Yeah, season 2 is The Lost Sister. It was the one where Eleven goes off and discovers her friends.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So I'm not sure if I'm excited for this one.
I did not know that. Okay. Well, yeah, we may have to recalibrate as we get closer. We'll see what happens.
Okay, another one that sounds a little bit interesting is called Survive. Tell me about that one.
Yes, so this is directed by Mark Pellington, who actually directed a movie that I liked quite a bit from 1999 called Arlington Road with Jeff Bridges. I don't know if you've seen that one, Peter.
Yeah.
It's like a bomber movie. Anyway, that one was pretty enjoyable. Survive is as the title might indicate, a survival thriller where Sophie Turner plays a woman who wants to end her life, and she's on a plane, and the plane crashes right before she's about to, it looks like, overdose on pills. And there's one other survivor, and he's played by Corey Hawkins from 24, the 24 revival and Straight Outta Compton. And the two of them have to basically just battle brutal conditions and try to survive they're in the snow swept mountainscape while everybody else on the plane crash has died. So it seems like a pretty simple premise, but
yeah, you can already see the arc there, right? You can see the person who wanted to kill herself learning to want to live from this.
Right. Yeah, totally. But I mean, even with that simplicity from the trailer, this one looks like it actually has a more of a big budget movie kind of feel to it. And I like Corey Hawkins and Sophie Turner a lot. So this one, more than any of the ones we've talked about so far, I think this is the one that I'm most excited to check out. There may be things as we move along that will outrank it, but in terms of what we talked about, I'm interested in this one for sure. Yeah,
I will say that I got a bunch of screeners from Quibi, which I'm not allowed to talk about, but this was the first one I went to. So if that tells you anything, I was most interested in this show or movie, whatever it is. Show,
movie and chapter.
Movies and chat. It's so confusing. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about Flipped. What is this? Is this like like another house flipping TV show?
This one actually looks really fun. It's directed by Ryan Case. She has directed episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Man Seeking Woman, Superstore, Modern Family, and Flipped stars Will Forte and Caitlin Olsen. And she's from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, if that name doesn't sound instantly familiar to you. And they play a couple who basically look like they watch HGTV type of shows and want to become house renovators, and they enter a contest to do so. And they like, I guess, I don't know if it's their house or somebody else's house, but they take a hammer to one of the walls and realize that there's a bunch of money inside. And they realize that it's sort of like a Mexican drug cartel safe house kind of thing. And they take all that money and like they create their own reality show out of it. And then the cartel comes along and realizes what's happened and forces them to renovate cartel mansions as like payback, basically. So this is obviously a comedy, and it looks pretty funny. I really, really, really like Will Forte and Caitlin Olsen, and Ryan Case. I think, based on those TV episodes that I mentioned that she's directed, has done a really great job in terms of comedy. So I'm also very excited about this one.
Yeah, and I believe Ryan Case is a female, even though she's named Ryan. I think she got her start editing like Modern Family and Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, before transitioning into directing. I think she's been directing for several years now. Yeah. But yeah, for sure.
The premise sounds interesting, and you have some funny people involved. So I think I'd watch this. Sounds kind of like almost like a comedy version of Ozark or something.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into some of the unscripted and docs. And let's start first with, I guess, Chrissys Court. Tell us about that.
So Chrissy Teigen is basically, she's just, this show seems like one of the most ridiculous ones where she's serving as a judge over small claims court cases that are actually like real cases. Her mom is the bailiff. It just seems I don't know. I watched the trailer. My wife likes Chrissy Teigen a lot. We actually have several of her cookbooks. She's a fantastic cook, and I really appreciate her contributions to the food that I've eaten.
Is that what she is? Because I've heard the name, but I didn't know where I've heard it from. She's a cook?
Oh, well, I think actually she started out as like a model or a supermodel or something like that, and then has branched out into several other things. She's married to John Legend, and the two of them are basically like, the internet's favorite couple. So she's very, very prominent on Twitter, has a really big following there. I generally like her. I've seen her in like episodes of cooking shows and things like that, travel shows and stuff. But I'm not
Ben,
convinced that I'm going to watch this.
Yeah, would you like her to rule over the legally binding court decision?
I mean, certainly not for anything involving my life, but I don't know. I think this would, just the fact that, I don't know. This may be like too anxiety inducing for me to actually watch, especially right now. Like the fact that, as you mentioned, I think they say in the trailer, like these decisions are legally binding. So it seems a little too chaotic for my personal interest, although I'm guessing a lot of people are going to end up watching this one.
I know that we're like in this kind of like fast, quick TikTok, ADD kind of culture of like, we want like things in small bites, and the service is trying to serve that. But do you think like doing a court case and, presenting a court case in like 6 minutes is something like, that just seems like way too fast?
Yeah, I didn't really think about that. I guess if the entire case, I don't know if they're going to be spreading out like one case over multiple episodes, or if each episode is just one case. And then, in that case, it does seem like, I don't know. I think I would want more than 10 minutes devoted to whatever legal issues that I had personally. But it probably makes for better, more entertaining streaming content this way.
Actually, I know we're like judging this based on us not even having very little information on the show, but I think I would like the show more if there was actually a clock. If there's like a 10-minute clock on the wall and she needs to come to the decision in 10 minutes. So like it's a race to come to the decision. I'm betting it's probably just like they did a real court thing for like an hour and cut it down to like 6 minutes. But
I mean, even if that's the case for a lot of these shows, I think especially reality stuff, there's so much fluff and unnecessary recapping, and
Yeah.
that's a huge part of what I hate about reality programming. And I feel like the shortened format for Quibi will actually cut through a lot of that, just BS kind of padding, and just get to the heart of it, which is what I always want. If I'm interested in the concept of a reality show, I always find myself being like, man, why can't this just be shorter and just like give me the meat on the instead of like all of this extra fat, So maybe Quibi will cure me of my aversion to reality TV. I don't know.
On Water Cooler, I was complaining about how actually both me and Chris were complaining how McMillions felt like too long, like it was like taking something that should have been like a few episodes and stretching to 6 hours. Well, I guess with Quibi, we're going to get shorter form documentary series, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Tell us about I Promise.
So I Promise is executive produced by LeBron James, and he has basically opened a school called I Promise that opened in 2018, and it's like a documentary series about his efforts to basically like get kids who don't like lower education, lower income families, that kind of thing, like just prop up the kids from his community. He's from Ohio, and the series will explore the day-to-day trials, triumphs, and life-changing impact of the school, staff, students, and families working together in a unique family-first educational environment that embraces the trauma and challenges many face in Akron, Ohio. So it seems like a cool like feel-good type of story, and I mean, I have to like sign off on like, yes, of course I approve of this. You'd have to be a monster to be like, nah, I hate the fact that this exists. I don't know if I'm gonna like watch every episode religiously or anything, but I'm glad that this exists, because I'm glad that LeBron James, did the thing that they're making a documentary about, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I just wonder if this is like too short, because like, we're 16 minutes into this podcast. You could watch 2 episodes of this show in that amount of time, which is,
man, that's crazy to think about. That's so wild.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about Memory Hole. What is Memory Hole?
Memory Hole, I'd never heard of until right now, but it is a smart, biting, and hilarious ride exploring the archives of the most cringeworthy events in pop culture. So the first season is going to be entirely focused on comedy in Canada, and maybe not comedy, but just like all weird pop culture things that happened in Canada. So Will Arnett is going to be hosting this. Jason Bateman and Patton Oswalt and John Bradley from Game of Thrones are going to be guests. And the description says that they're going to be skewering a myriad of topics most of us forgot or never even knew existed. So it kind of seems like one of those old like VH1 shows, like almost like I love the 80s, 90s, 2000s, whatever. But
oh, like you bring up like an old toy that was popular when you were a kid, like that kind of stuff.
In my mind, that's kind of what it is, because they don't have a trailer out for this one. So based on that description, that's kind of in the same family as those kind of shows. So we'll have to see about this, but I like all of those people. So again, that's I guess the good thing about Quibi is that these episodes are so short. You're not really committing in any sort of huge serious way to any of these if you just like sample the first episode or 2 of them. So I think this one is worth sampling for me. What do you think, Peter? Are you interested in this?
I mean, the names here are it's gonna live and die by who's participating. You mentioned that like things are so short, so you could just sample it, but I feel like that also makes things so disposable, and there's been so many shows that I end up love and binge watching that I feel like I was ready to turn it off for the first like 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. So I just can't imagine like 7 minutes into an episode that being the episode being over and me having to make the decision of like, should I continue or not? But
yeah, it definitely like puts a lot of pressure on all of the people who are making these shows and movies and stuff to come out of the gate very, very strong, which like I don't know if all of these that might work better for something like a movie where like you can open in media res with like an action in the middle of an action scene or something and like really pull people in and then flash back and lay things out as the story progresses. I'm not sure if that structure really applies to all of this kind of stuff as it goes. So I'm very curious to see how this is going to do, because we were talking about this in our Slack channel a little bit earlier today too. the big thing with Quibi is like short content on your phone only. The idea from them was like this stuff is sort of being designed for people to watch like on the train on your way to work or like on the subway or
but Ben, we're now all stuck at home.
Right, yeah, that's what I was going to say. So now that we're all stuck at home and everybody's working from home, Quibi seems like a good idea in theory, in that it's like, more content for people to watch in this era when people need a lot of things to watch. But I wonder if the structural aspects of this stuff, which may have worked much better in a quote unquote normal society, a normal time period in our society. I wonder how that's going to land with people and how that's going to affect, I guess, the public's reception of Quibi as a whole because of, COVID-19 and coronavirus and all this crazy stuff that's happening right now.
Yeah. Let's go quick through the next three. Tell me about Thanks a Million.
Thanks a Million is executive produced by Jennifer Lopez. It basically is about like it's like a pay it forward show where there's 10 episodes and each episode somebody gets $100,000, like somebody unsuspecting, and they have to I guess put that money in the hands of other people. So again, sort of like an uplifting kind of thing. There's Punk'd, a new version of the old MTV show that Ashton Kutcher used to host. Chance the Rapper is now the host and executive producer of this one. It's basically the same exact thing. People pulling pranks on Hollywood stars and musicians and stuff like that. You know exactly what to expect there. And then there's one called Murder House Flip, which I think Chris has mentioned on the podcast before, where it's a reality show where they actually go into homes where people have been murdered and like flip the homes and try to it says remove the stains of the past and take these homes from morbid to marvelous. So again, I'm not sure if that's something that I'm gonna really jump into, but I think this seems really like designed perfectly for somebody like Chris.
I love house flipping shows, but this feels like it might be a little bit too morbid for me. Punk'd, I'm not like now that you have YouTube, like what's the point? I guess like they could punk big people.
Right. And I'm not like a huge fan of pranks anyway and prank shows. Like I was never like a big disciple of the original Punk'd or anything. So I guess it maybe if like I hear, oh, one of my favorite actors or something is the subject is being punked, then, maybe I would tune into it. But most of the time I just I don't think I could personally condone this. But again, it was super popular back in the day. I have no reason to believe that it won't be popular again now, even though, like you said, there, people are maybe like more used to this stuff because of YouTube. But yeah, I think that the big names here are probably going to be the big draw.
Okay, there's a lot more of these like documentary and reality shows here, but let's skip ahead. Let's skip to Monday, April 13th. People can go to the article if they want to read a list of all the shows, which includes like a new version of Singled Out, which seems crazy. How can you find a match for someone in 6 minutes? But okay, let's go to April 13th. Let's talk about Agua Donkeys.
Yeah, I've never heard of this, but it's always summer for the Agua Donkeys as they chase the perfect tan, the perfect vibe, and the perfect mix of bromine and chlorine to service some of the sickest backyard pools in their Utah hometown. Peter, I don't know if you watched the trailer for this, but it reminded me a lot of the Canadian comedy series Letterkenny, where it's just like people sort of standing around and like saying pretty normal things to each other in a strange way. I really don't know what to make of this one. I feel like this is going to be like one of those sort of like Letterkenny, like a cult thing where like people who are really into it are very, very into it and like become, rapturous about it and like spread the word to everybody they know and try to get people hooked on it. But from this teaser, I am not convinced that I'm going to be one of those people. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, it totally seems like it's not my kind of thing, but maybe Brad will enjoy it.
Yeah, it does actually sound like Brad would find a lot to like here. So,
I am a fan of Mika Monroe, and she's in a thing called The Stranger. Tell me about that.
Yes, this is another movie. She's basically playing a rideshare driver who picks up a character played by Dane DeHaan, and he is a murdering psychopath psychopath. So it's like one of those stories. You've probably seen this kind of premise before, but it's like a survival escape kind of thriller where she has to get away from this guy who is like stalking her over the course of 12 hours, and it all takes place in LA, and it looks like there's some decent like Hollywood and LA kind of on location filming and stuff like that. So it seems like this one I think I would definitely tune into. It might be like too disturbing for some people to watch because of how like potentially real it is. Like there's been like real stuff with like Craigslist killers and Uber drivers going nuts and things like that. But for people, this one actually comes from Veena Sood, who is the writer, director, and executive producer here. She was responsible for that show The Killing that a lot of people really liked. So,
I really like that show, so I'm excited for this.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about hashtag Free Rayshawn.
Yeah, Free Rayshawn is from director Seith Mann. It is from executive producer Antoine Fuqua. I thought that Fuqua was the one who's directing this, but that is not the case. Stephen James, who was from If Beale Street Could Talk and the Amazon series Homecoming, plays a Iraq War veteran who is basically set up by the New Orleans Police Department on like a drug deal gone wrong kind of thing, and he runs for his life and ends up like holing up in his apartment with his wife and young son. And the New Orleans PD and the SWAT team try to break in, and they're like shooting into his house and all this stuff. And Lawrence Fishburne plays a negotiator who comes in and tries to lower the tensions and figure out what's going on. The name of the movie, hashtag Free Rayshawn, is because he broadcasts to the world on his phone from his apartment what's going on, and he sort of like starts he becomes the subject of a movement online where people are trying to figure out what's going on in this police case, and trying to make sure that unnecessary violence isn't happening, all that stuff. So it seems like it's tapping into some real world issues, but also has like a nice mix of like John Q and Queen and Slim or something like that. That's maybe how I would describe it. And it definitely has like a slick look, and I really, really like Stephen James a lot as an actor. So to see him step into another lead role like this is exciting for me. So I'm definitely gonna be checking this one out.
Yeah, and this comes from Seith Mann, who has directed episodes of like Homeland. He's been directing episodes of like, he's a TV vet. He's did like Dexter, House of Lies, Heroes, Friday Night Lights. So he's done like a bunch of stuff over the years, but I don't think he's done a feature film. So it'll be interesting to see him in this format. Let's talk about 50 States of Fright, and this comes from Sam Raimi.
Yeah, he's one of the executive producers on this. Rachel Brosnahan, Travis Fimmel, Mignon Wen, Karen Allen, James Ransone, Asa Butterfield, a bunch of other people are in this, and it's basically it seems like sort of an anthology kind of thing where there are horror stories that are based on urban legends from Michigan, Kansas, Oregon, Minnesota, and Florida. So it's all about different horror elements based on local legends and kind of things like that. So it's called 50 States of Fright, but it seems like it's only actually concentrating on 5, but maybe that's just like the first season or something. I'm not really sure if they're going to get around to doing every single state, but maybe
they'll get to 10 seasons, Ben, and they'll get to all 50 states.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Or they'll just do Florida 5 times.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely enough there. So,
are you excited for this one?
I'm intrigued. I think like the anthology format is very, very hit or miss for me, and I think this is one that I'll probably wait on other people to chime in and say like, oh man, you got to check out this one, you got to check out this one, and that's maybe the good thing about Quibi is like you can skip episodes and they're still short. It's not like a huge time requirement.
There's a bunch of stuff we're skipping over here. There's like reality shows based on WWE wrestlers. There's like a Mentalist. There's a bunch of stuff. But the last one I wanted to talk about was another movie and chapter, and this is called Dumbian, has Anna Kendrick.
Yes, Anna Kendrick plays an aspiring writer who befriends her boyfriend's sex doll, and the two take on the world together. So that's the premise of this one. Trisha Brock is the director. She's directed, I think, episodes of The Walking Dead, Lodge 49. Let's see, Mozart in the Jungle, Orange is the New Black. So definitely like a lot of experience there. The premise, I think, is going to be the thing that either pulls you in or leaves you at arm's length of this one. But I like Anna Kendrick. What do you think, Peter? I
love Anna Kendrick, and I like Donald Logue, although I feel like for a while there he was like cursed. Like whatever he was in, like would suffer some kind of horrible failure. But he was, what was he? He was in a big hit. Like what was it? Like Gotham, I guess.
Yeah, he's in Gotham. Yeah. That ran for a long time. I think that the thing that I grew up loving that. God, what was the name of the show that he was on? The family show that was on like ABC or something back in the day. I cannot remember, but I really enjoyed that show at the time. The biggest thing that I've been a Donald Logue fan from is Terriers. He's one of the leads in that, and that's one of those things I think that you're probably talking about in that period where he was cursed because that show only lasted for one season. But it was really, really great. I think Terriers is actually available on the FX on Hulu. That whole thing right now. So if you want to catch up on that, I would definitely recommend it.
What if Quibi picked up Terriers and split it into 5-minute segments?
I mean, I would 100% watch every single thing because I love Terriers so much. Yeah, man, that would be like, I would be so conflicted about that. I would hate the fact that it split up like that, but I would love the fact that there's more Terriers. So.
Okay, we have gotten through what we wanted to get through. We didn't get through everything, and we did it in under 30 minutes. I feel like we were almost like doing like a Quibi like game show. Although if it was a game show on Quibi, we would have gone 5 episodes now, which is crazy.
We would have been shot in the face with all of the letters of the words that we were saying or something like that. That's a reference to Dishmantled, which is one of the shows where a cooking show where people actually get shot in the face with the ingredients that they have to use. And the trailer, which just came out today, I embedded in the article, it makes that look so much more gross than I thought it was going to based on that description. So I encourage people to watch that trailer too.
Well, I know Chris right now is watching all the Quibi shows and he's going to report back. So we'll have a follow-up podcast in like a week and a half and see what is good, what is bad, what is worth watching. Is Quibi worth getting? By the way, do we know, like, are these shows going to be like a once a week kind of thing, or
at the end of every single one of these Quibi trailers, it says new episodes every day, but I don't think they've actually laid out a full schedule of what that means. If it's just going to be new episodes of content every day or new episodes of each individual show or movie that you're watching, if they're going to release those consecutively every day, that doesn't seem likely to me. It seems like they would want to put a little bit of breathing room in between each episode. But then again, who knows with Quibi? They could do whatever they want, and it's a Quibi world, and we're about to be living in it, Peter.
See, it feels to me like it should be every day. Like you should get next chapter tomorrow, and the next chapter of that the next day, and it would it's possible because if you were producing a normal 60-minute TV show, right, and you were doing 4 episodes of that a month, then you would have what, like 4 times 60? I'm doing the math, 240 minutes. So if you divided that into 30 episodes, that would be 8 minutes an episode. So you could do that for the price. I guess if Hollywood was going to produce a TV show that was 8 minutes long every single day, it'd be the same. I think maybe. I don't know. Anyways,
well, would people tune in every day though? Is that the gambit that Quibi is making? I don't know. There's so many different angles to this.
Yeah. Okay. You can read the whole article on slashfilm.com. You can find more of both of our work at slashfilm. You can find this podcast, Slashfilm Daily, published every weekday on iTunes, Google, Overcast, Spotify. Actually, I should note that lately we've had a drought of news. Like it's really been a lot of doom and gloom because of the coronavirus. So we've been kind of going to like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule. We'll keep more on that and keep you updated, but we might not be doing every day as we had been doing prior. So just a warning. Please feel free to send us your feedback, questions, comments, concerns to us at peter@slashfilm.com, and rate and review this podcast on iTunes. Tell your friends, spread the word, and we will see you on Monday.